And good morning, everybody. It is Wonderful Wednesday with Kaz Riley. Now, Kaz, this is very funny because you are a Yorkshire lass. You live in Huddersfield, and I had to go all the way over to America to meet you. So, yeah, actually, we probably only live about an hour away from each other when I still lived in America. Now, Kaz, many people know you, especially in our industry, because you are fabulous, of course, and you do something unique. You have a really interesting, because it is interesting, of course, because everybody loves sex. They can see your thing there, sexual freedom coach, and you help people with that issue because it's a big one. It's everything to so many people because we're all about relationships. Kaz, how did you get into that niche area?
Well, I think our niches find us, don't they? Often, life happens in a certain way. And I actually started out working with fertility, believe it or not. And I used to teach over here for Lindsay Eastburn. The hypnofertility had masses of fertility clients, and it just kind of seemed that all the clients that I were getting were having fertility treatment because of a sexual issue, whether that was vaginismus or erectile dysfunction or something along the line. And also fertility treatment really destroys people's sex lives, believe it or not, which is very counterproductive. So it kind of started from there. But like most people, most adults, I have an interest in sex. And I also like a puzzle, and there was very little out there to help me in how to use hypnosis in this field. So, a lot of it for me was solving that puzzle. How do I help these people to overcome some of these issues that they're having with this wonderful tool that we've got called hypnosis, knowing that sex is a kind of trance anyway. So for me, it was a voyage of hypnotic exploration, if you like, to try and help the clients that I had. And then it kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, and you're right, because I completely agree. When you're having sex, it's in your head. It's like and yeah, so it is like a form of a trance. Absolutely. So and I have been in one of your workshops, and actually a few of them, when you've been speaking and presenting at conferences, and everybody is like literally riveted because I suspect they're all wondering, how can this help me? And everybody wants some clues into that sort of thing. So when people come and see you, what does that mean for them? How does that benefit them?
Well, it can mean many things. So for me, if I define sexual freedom, if you go out and Google it or look it up in the old dictionary, it comes up with all different kinds of definitions, from everything from people being very promiscuous right the way through to almost the opposite of freedom, really. But the way I define it, and the way I define it for my clients, is a happy, satisfying, consensual sex life in the absence of shame, guilt, and sexual dysfunction. So most people will carry some kind of sexual shame because despite not a single person on the planet being able to be here without two people having sex, it's still one of the most taboo subjects. And one of the things that, in many kind of areas of society, people try and control, if you look at religion and all of that kind of stuff. So really, for me, it's about helping people kind of cast off that kind of cloak of shame or guilt about sex, and then finding out who they are sexually and what that means for them. And that can mean overcoming a sexual dysfunction. It can mean becoming very confident in their own sexual body. It could mean, being able to access orgasms easily for the first time in their life. It could mean being able to become a parent. It could mean that they could actually start to look for a partner, because lots of people that have sexual shame or sexual dysfunction don't even get to the dating part of it because they know they've got that thing and they're worried about it. We know, what do? We avoid things if we're worried about things. Yeah. So it can mean a massive amount of different things to different people. What most people don't know is that about 70% of the population will experience a sexual dysfunction at some point in their lifetime. And many of those, that goes on for a long, long, long time. So it's, despite being taboo, despite being something that people don't necessarily like to talk about, it's probably something that we should be talking about much, much more, and in different ways in schools as well, because it's very mechanical. And I think this is where, people, especially young people, are getting their very basic information from school, if they're getting that at all. And then they're getting all this other information, which is misinformation from pornography, from Hollywood, from Instagram, which gives this very warped idea. So sexual dysfunction is on a massive, rapid increase, when really you would think in 2024 it should really be coming down, but it's not. It's doing the exact opposite.
Do you know what I really loved there? Was that actually you just normalized something, that 70% of people will at some point have an issue.
Yeah.
And this is because when we normalize something, it makes it okay. And it's like, now let's get curious. Let's focus on what that is, because take away that whole chunk of there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Who's going to want to touch me? And again, I know the body has a lot to do with it, body shame. And there's a whole host of things that come with this area. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's a far and wide reaching kind of niche to work in. Even things like libido, when we look at libido, this is kind of one of my pet subjects. People come saying, I've lost my libido, when what they mean is they've lost their sex drive. But actually, when you look at what's going on in their lives at that time, there's a whole host of things. And libido really is fed by many things. It's not just this desire to have sex. I always redefine it as life force. And if something's causing a glitch in the matrix of the life force, if you like, then one of the first places that will show up is kind of your desire and sex drive. And it's one of those things. It's interesting. Our sexual health, our psychological sexual health, if you like, takes work. We have to look after it. Like, we have to look after our bodies and give ourselves good nutrition, and we go to the hairdressers or we go to the gym. It's not something that will just be there. And especially within relationships, we have to nurture desire and eroticism and connection. And often, people get together, they did all of that right at the start, but then, they forget to do that as they kind of move through their relationship. And then they wonder, why are we so disconnected, or what's happening? And it's usually in that case, it's usually because, well, we're not doing the work, and, but they're carrying on going to the gym and they're carrying on going to the hairdressers and not actually just kind of putting in that time for connection and enjoyment and celebrating their partner.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And, because just general touch, a hug, and there's other forms of showing that love, like when you do a little thing for your partner, like making them a cup of tea at the same time you've made yourself one, choosing them a really nice steak to eat, or whatever it is. That's if they're not vegetarian. Otherwise, you might be saying something else.
Absolutely. Or an apple, whatever. But the point of that is as well, it's the acknowledgement, it's the gratitude that goes along with that. So, if you do that for your partner consistently and there's no kind of thank you, then this is exactly what I mean. Then what people do is they stop doing it. It's not even a conscious one. I'm not doing that for you anymore. They're just because there's no reinforcement. And so often that is, when I'm working with couples, a lot of it's actually based in gratitude and also an understanding. We go through different cycles with our body through our lives. Our sexual selves in our 20s is very different than our sexual selves in our 50s. We, both men and women, we go through menopause or andropause or childbirth and, young children and bereavement and, all kinds of stuff. All of these things will impact our libido. And if we feel connected to a person that will ride us through, that all of those things will help. And also things like illness that can cause issues in the bedroom as well, or just general anxiety, massive stress at work, financial issues, all of those kinds of things are things that can have a massive impact on how a person, I always say, functions sexually rather than performs, because we try and get out of this kind of performative way of thinking about sex. It's not a performance, it's a connection, and it's kind of making people get back into that shift of where, you know, they're meeting another person in this very physical and emotional way, which is, you know, one of the most amazing parts of being an adult human, isn't it?
I absolutely agree. Yeah. I mean, I know, you know, people say, oh, having children, it's the best form of contraception, because, you know, it's like, oh, so tired. And yet when you do have sex again, it's like, oh, so nice. Why didn't we do this more often? And then, I don't know, another month goes by and you don't again. It's like, what are we doing?
Well, it's about priorities, isn't it? And sometimes we do have to make the time, you know, prioritize our partner. This is where things can go awry sometimes, when a connection breaks down, and it's not usually the lack of sex, it's usually the lack of connection that leads to sex. So, you know, it's being able to sometimes realize that, you know, the washing up or the hoovering or whatever it is can actually wait, and you can, you know, spend that time doing something that's a hell of a lot more pleasurable. But on the flip side of that, if you've got a sexual dysfunction, then people will often, you know, kind of do all of those things to avoid having sex if there's pain, or you're worried that it's not going to work, or whatever it might be. I mean, I always tell a story. I was probably one of the busiest people during COVID. And the reason I was one of the busiest people during COVID was because obviously I have this niche, and suddenly the world was locked down. People couldn't go to the tennis club. They couldn't go play racquetball. They couldn't go, you know, to the theatre. They couldn't go out with their friends. They were locked down with their partners, sometimes furloughed from work for, you know, months on end, with not very much to do, nowhere else to go. And suddenly we're faced with, you know, their partner. And quite often it was like, you know, it's like, well, what will we do? This is why, you know, the birth rate after COVID went up dramatically. But also it meant that people were having to face problems that they'd been avoiding in the bedroom for a long, long time. And I was working flat out all the way through COVID with people from all over the world who finally got, well, I better address this now. So it's, you know, it just goes to show that people will, you know, avoidance is one of the biggest things that people will do if they've got a sexual dysfunction, rather than actually deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right, because it's a lot of it is the thought of, well, they run those thoughts, negative thoughts through their heads of, you know, if you, as you say, if they have a dysfunction, if I can't get it up, and then that sticks. And then it gets more and more and more, and they just can't get away from it. And yeah, it's very difficult, that one. So tell me more. How would you cope? How would you help somebody with that? Because I know it's a big one for a lot of people.
What with not being able to function? So I mean, it varies according to who's sat in front of me, of course. You know, the biggest things that I see with men would be erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. The biggest things I see with women are vaginismus and painful sex. Anorgasmia is by far the biggest thing I see with women, which is interesting. So I always say the average the percentage of women that regularly orgasm through penetration is actually 18%. Now, if you ask the general population what they thought it would be, they would tell you much higher, because that's what, you know, the society and the internet tells us. You know, women are multi-orgasmic. We are, but often women don't know how to be. So a lot of it for me, when I'm working with men and women, is the first part is usually a re-education part, because most people have got a massive amount of misinformation about what good sex is, how their body is supposed to function, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of getting rid of that shame that we were talking about, and the guilt and any trauma. And then it's really about empowering people to be in their bodies, to not have this anxiety, to really redefine what good sex means for them, and to be curious, to be playful, to be erotic, not a mechanical thing, I always describe it as when people come to me, they tend to be like a stressed out commuter on a train, desperately trying to get to a meeting at a certain time and to meet somebody else there. And the whole thing is very stressful. It's not enjoyable. They're missing what's kind of going on around them. And to put them on a magical mystery tour so that they can stop off in 1,000 different places, discovering new things, learning about themselves and their body, and really enjoying what that means for them. And when they're able to do that, and they're then be able to connect, then magical, sensual, wonderful things start to happen. And then they feel more connected to their partner. They feel more connected to themselves. Mm-hmm. And then they notice things like, I feel more confident at work. This creative energy is unleashed. Now I've got all these ideas. Their kind of ambitions come back. They start to think about all the things that they would like to do rather than all the things that they can't, because our sexual energy is a massive, powerful force. When you think about it, drives us forward through life. So to harness that and to be able to use it and enjoy it and embrace it without any of that shame, is a really magical thing. And that doesn't mean that people suddenly start going out wanting to have sex with anybody. It just means that they've got the choice. And when you've got choices, you feel much more in control. You're more likely to see opportunities, and all kinds of other wonderful things. So it's not just about what happens in the bedroom, that impacts when you overcome a sexual dysfunction. It will impact many areas of a person's life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because if they can get that bit and they feel safe and secure inside their body, they're liking themselves, then that will just literally radiate out in all other areas of their life. So,
absolutely.
So it's not just about sex in the bedroom. It's actually, it will reach everywhere, and because people will just because we emit energy. And it's so I love it, absolutely love it. So how many sessions, what
I mean, for clients, it's normally about 6, and we cover all kinds of stuff, or sometimes less, sometimes more. That's kind of the average, but most people I work with over 6 sessions, and we normally start with boundaries for just about everybody, actually, because people are notoriously bad at them. And it also gives us this amazing container to put all this new energy, so people know where to keep it, where to find it, how to use it. And then really the rest of the sessions will depend upon what that person needs. Everything from finding their eroticism, which is key to good sex, permission to have it. That's a big one. Letting go of their shame and guilt, that if they have any, most people do, and really allowing themselves. And the beauty of this is they can become really embodied in all these wonderful feelings and sensations, and they can do all of that knowing that it's the magic of their own mind that's creating that. It's they own it, if you like, and then they can choose to share it with somebody else, rather than thinking it's somebody else that, especially for women. Women are often taught that sexual pleasure is something that's given to us or permitted to us by men. And actually, when we start to realize that it's ours, it's within us, we can enjoy it, and then we can share it if we choose to. That's a massive shift for a lot of women. That's really powerful.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, really, really, really good. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, I know you've got a book. Yeah.
So this is the book. This came out of COVID as well, because I was just absolutely inundated. I put out a video on YouTube called "Can Hypnosis Help You Orgasm?" Yes, it can, and I think it's had about 200,000 views now. So it's and I think most of them called me. So this book is called "Woman: How to Find, Understand, and Embrace Your Sexual Pleasure." I had a massive argument with Amazon about this and won. Had a bit of a to do with Jeff Bezos. With Jeff Bezos. Sorry, I couldn't remember the guy's name there. And it's full of it's a practical book. It's a how-to book, and it's got lots of free hypnosis downloads that you can download and play with and experiment with. Everything you need to know is in there, and it's been on the sexual health bestsellers list now for since it was launched. So that is rather lovely. For a Yorkshire lass from Huddersfield on top.
That is brilliant. Yeah, there you go. Yorkshire lass. Yeah, no, I've got my signed copy. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely love it. So what's next? What's next for you?
Well, more of the same. I've got a platform hopefully launching next year. It's been delayed somewhat, called Orgasmic Minds, which is a group to kind of help people discover. So we've got new things coming out every month, so people can kind of discover all wonderful new things. I've got trainings in Las Vegas in July. We've got some active alert hypnosis, which is great for sexual anxiety, I might add, because we don't want to be lying down all still if we're wanting to be having sex. We want to be having, an active and wonderful time. And then we've got the sensual lantern, which is very much about eroticism and sensuality and playfulness with hypnosis. The most fun you can have with all of your clothes on and nobody touching you. It's like a really wonderful place to be. So we've got that in July. And then for the rest of this year, or the start of next year, I'm doing a lot of mum stuff. So for once, I'm going to be fairly static here in Yorkshire, and working with all my wonderful, lovely clients, which are either here in my office or online as we are now. I'm very blessed. I have clients from all over the world.
Yes, I know. I mean, and I'm not surprised because you are fabulous. Now, I know because I'm coming over to Ireland for the Irish conference, and you're not there this year because your son is doing his A levels. So
that's right. Yeah.
And I love that you're prioritizing that, because it's obviously a core value of yours, and it speaks volume about you. So, I love that. I will miss you though.
I know, but there's many other years, isn't there? But sometimes, well, I love what I do. I'm passionate. It's probably evident to everybody. I'm very passionate about what I do, but family first, and sometimes we just need to be around. And I'm still, we have the internet now. It's not like I'm disappearing for 6 months. I'm just going to be in one place, which actually might be quite nice for my family too. Maybe they'll be sick of me. They'll be shipping me off to Las Vegas in July at high speed. I don't know.
So that's brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to put your links in the comments so that people can get in touch with you, and we'll make sure that we have the link to your book as well, so that people can figure this out for themselves if they want to, or as I say, go from there to get in touch with you. So thank you for watching, everybody. I'm sure you found this absolutely fascinating. It's goodbye from me, Claudia Rickard, and it's goodbye from
another Yorkshire lass, Kaz Riley. I'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.